Hello, friends, and welcome back to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark.
And I'm Midge Munster. And as y'all know from our last episode, Penny and I have returned from Midsummer Scream.
Hey!
But while we were out in Long Beach, we also had the opportunity to do a few things outside of the convention itself. And one of the really cool opportunities we had was to go visit the Queen Mary.
Yes!
Yes. Penny, remind me, was this your first time visiting the Queen Mary?
It was. This was
Okay.
my suggestion that I
That's,
wanted to
yeah.
go. Because I've always wanted to see the Queen Mary, and I believe last year they were still shut down.
Yes.
Because they were shut down for a little while after COVID and doing some like renovations.
Mhm.
But they were back open this year, so I thought that that would be a good spot for all of us spooky folk to go.
And you were right. It was certainly a lot of fun. It's funny. We I don't remember if you and I discussed this. According to my mother, this is my second time being there.
Oh,
I sent her a picture from the ship. I was like, "Wow, look at the Queen Mary." And she's like, "You've been there before." I was like, "No."
have
She's like, "Yes, you
I?
have." I guess we didn't go in, but we like went and like walked around it, and I don't remember this at all.
Hmm.
It would have been, and which is, I would have been like 13. It's not like I was
Huh.
like a baby child.
Yeah,
So
that seems like something you'd remember. Maybe a ghost stole your memory of it.
I literally was like, I wonder if my memory got wiped. Zero recollection, but apparently this was my second time, first time aboard the ship. It was very,
First
very
conscious
cool.
visit.
First actual, this is the first time Midge was present. But so today we want to chat a little bit about this experience, talk about the Queen Mary herself, and just kind of give you the lowdown on if this is something, y'all might want to do if you're in the Long Beach area.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the history of the ship, named after the Queen Mary, obviously herself. The RMS Queen Mary is a absolutely massive, thousand
So
foot
big.
long ship, hailing from England, and it was worked on throughout the 1930s. The Great Depression held up a good chunk of her construction between 1931 and 1934, but she was finally completed and made her maiden voyage on May 27th, 1936. And this ship, like Penny also just said, is massive. It was 2 times the size of the Titanic and was considered to be the absolute height of luxury. It was also very fast, holding the record for the fastest ever North Atlantic crossing,
Ooh.
and was just like the place to go take a little cruise.
Just the raddest boat out
The
there.
raddest boat. So she started as kind of a cruise liner, toting all around all kinds of rich and famous folks, from Greta Garbo to Clark Gable. But unfortunately, after just 3 years of this, World War II happened, and the ship ended up becoming a transport ship for soldiers. During this time, they painted the entire ship gray, and because of how fast it was so much faster than enemy U-boats and things that it kind of almost became undetectable, and they
Mm.
began calling her the Gray Ghost.
Ooh.
Ooh, very spooky name. During the war, she transported over 800,000 servicemen and set the record for carrying the most people aboard a floating vessel at one time, at a whopping 16,683 people aboard.
Dang.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Even for a ship that big, that's a lot of people. As the war came to an end, the ship began to transport more than 2,200 war brides. So that is women who got married very quickly before their husbands left for battle. So began transporting them from England to the United States and Canada along with their children, known as bride and baby voyages.
Yeah.
The Mary made 13 voyages for this purpose in 1946. Then in 1947, she was returned to being the Queen Mary, and did a few more rounds as kind of a luxury cruise liner, but eventually was retired and was sold in 1967 to the city of Long Beach, California for
Hey.
a whopping $3.45 million.
Whoa.
Whoa. Which honestly, like in today's money, I'm like, that's actually not that much for a ship
Right?
that
I was like,
size.
you get a lot of boat for your buck there.
Boat for your buck. That's going to
Uh-huh.
be the new saying. So that is where she is now. She is permanently docked in Long Beach and now serves as a luxury hotel and maritime museum. So let's take a pause here. And
Pause.
I mean, we already kind of addressed it, but let's just talk about the physical ship for a second because two things stood out to me, which one we've already talked about. I was not prepared for just how massive a boat like this
No.
is up
Yeah.
close.
No.
Uh, I would say I've never been this close to a ship, but apparently I have.
But that would be a lie.
But my recollection is not there. And I mean, because we drove up to it and we're in the parking lot, I'm like, that's a big boat. And then as we got closer to it, I was
Mhm.
like, oh my, it's arresting.
Yeah, it's so big. I have never been on a cruise.
No, I haven't either.
I've never been like toe to toe with a cruise ship.
Right.
And I think I mentioned when we were there that I had toured like a big like freighter up
Mm,
in Minnesota. I toured like an iron ore ship,
okay.
which was also huge, but this was the first like passenger
Yeah.
ship that I was on, and it was just so weird to like be this. I feel like this feels like so bumpkin. Just have never ran a cruise, but
We're
like
very Midwestern. Let's put that.
when
We're
you get on
landlocked.
it, it's not even like you're on a boat. Like
Yeah,
it's like a
it's a
regular
building.
building inside.
No,
It's
for real
wild.
though. Yeah, I had the same like, wow, like I'm just sitting at a restaurant on a boat? Question mark.
Right? And we're like walking through all these hallways, and I'm like,
Yeah,
this is a boat. And like, I know
which
we'll talk
granted,
about
it's
this later, but like, he would describe like, having to add the railings because, the boat moves, and like people falling down the stairs because the boat moves. And I'm like looking at all this stuff, being like, imagine all of this just like
moving
rocking back and forth.
and like
Crazy.
speeding through the water because this was a fast boat.
Yes, I
Um,
definitely looked at it and I was like, it's like the Titanic.
well, and twice the size. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Like
Ooh.
to think that the Titanic was half that size, and like this, it's a big old boat, y'all. Um, so that there's that.
Point
uh,
one.
Point one, big boat. Point two, architecture.
Yes.
Architecture,
Art Deco
beautiful.
style.
Art deco details, everything
Gorgeous.
in pristine, like restored condition, but not updated. Like
Mhm.
they have not lost the 30s, like late 30s, early 40s charm of this boat.
Yes, for sure.
Um, and I mean, we'll get more into all the different parts of the boat, but like my personal like point that really stood out to me, even though we couldn't really see it, was the pool decks
Yeah.
in this beautiful like green tile and a mother of pearl ceiling. Like it's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
um
All of those gorgeous, like, wooden mosaics and art
oh
pieces, like,
yeah,
set into the walls. Just so pretty.
yeah, all the woodwork in general, like the wood moldings and it's just gorgeous.
Right, and
Even
I'm sure you can relate as a vintage gal when he was like, "Oh, yeah, the railings are made of pure bakelite." I
oh
was like,
yes,
"Bakelite?"
big light in the year of our Lord 2023.
Like,
Yeah,
wow,
I
look at
had
all
the
this bakelite. You can make so many bangles out
I
of this.
I could make I could have a real hell of a stack with this.
Such a major
slap
stack.
slap the railings. Like this baby can fit so many
So
bangles in
many
it.
bangles. Exactly.
Yeah, very very cool in general. But that's kind of besides the point of where we're heading today, because I'm sure at this point some of you might be thinking, am I still listening to Ghouls Night In?
Right, is this a spooky
why
podcast?
why are we talking about a boat? Well, let me tell you, it's because much like a lot of other things that are beautiful and old and have a rich history, this ship is hella haunted.
Ooh.
Some actually say that the Queen Mary is one of the most haunted places on Earth, with as many as 49 reported deaths on board and up to 150 known spirits lurking on the ship. And that's just the ones we know about. And Penny and I actually had the pleasure of going on the Haunted Happenings tour.
Yes.
Shout out to tour guide Bill.
What up, Bill?
Pour one out for Bill. He's not dead. He's just, but he might have been. He had very spooky spirit energy. I'm not convinced Bill was a real person, but he was
That's
awesome.
true. I could see Bill being a cursed tour guide ghost.
Yeah, yeah, but Bill was awesome. So yeah, let's talk about what makes the Mary a paranormal hotspot. So first, I want to talk about some of the spirits that are known to be on board. The first of which is the Lady in White. And this is said to be one of the war brides who was never claimed by her soldier, which is very sad. And she is often seen wherever the piano of the hotel resides. So there's this very beautiful piano that used to be in the Queen's Salon, which was what used to be the first class lounge. And for a long time, that's where the Lady in White was seen. She was seen in the Queen's Salon dancing by herself to, quote, piano music that no one was playing. But now she's also often seen in the lobby because the piano has been moved to the lobby. We got to see the piano.
We did.
Another very crazy, beautiful thing made of like crazy burl wood, and
yeah, gorgeous.
Everything's beautiful. But yeah, she now is often also seen hanging out in there, doing a little dance, waiting for her love to return to her. It's very sad. The pools also, as we kind of talked about a minute ago, seem to be a general like common place for spirits fully, like not just one spirit. It's like the pools be spirited. It was interesting. They talked about, so like I kind of mentioned before, the first class pool specifically, the ceiling is completely made of mother of pearl, which is very cool, first of all.
Yes.
And then obviously you're dealing with a pool which is full of water. Historically. And then underneath the boat obviously is also water. So both of mother of pearl and water are things that are kind of known to be conduits for spirits. And so there are a lot of people who think that basically the two of them over each other like that created more or less a portal where a lot of spirits could come through. So we see a lot of activity in the pool. However, there's one in particular who seems to be the most active, and she is in the second class pool, actually. A spirit of a little girl named Jackie, who seems to be wanting to talk to everybody. She is one of the most frequently caught on camera and on EVP, so actually catching her voice, responding to questions. People hear her singing and laughing. Now, there are stories that she drowned in the pool during the ship's sailing days. However, there are no records of any drownings on board the ship. And the ship's like log keeps pretty aggressive records of any deaths, births, anything that happened on the ship. And paranormal investigator Cher Garman wrote about this and was like, she's like, I think Jackie is legit. I know she's there, but I don't think she drowned. This is so when we're taking this tour, it's important to note, let me paint you a word picture. It's important to note that Penny, in full Penny fashion, has gotten gussied up for the event and is in the cutest little Michelin pit. I think it's the Ghostbusters, like Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man dress, right?
It is.
But it's a little sailor out like dress. So cute. So she looks very maritime, very like appropriate for the scene.
You know, I got a dress on a theme.
On a theme. I was wearing ghosts, so together we were like
also on theme.
Sea ghost situation. It was very cute. But Penny also, if you have not seen her recently, no longer has green hair and now has this very lovely dusty pink color, which when you're not in direct sunlight, still looks very like light and has
Yes,
kind of
very
tones of
pale.
your natural blonde. So we're in this room by the pool, and Bill is telling us about the hauntings, and he's like, and some people see a little girl, a little blonde girl named Jackie wearing a sailor dress. And like everyone on our tour just turns at the same time and looks directly at Penny.
Yes, it's me, the 5'9" little girl.
I wish you would have just like giggled and run away. That was,
I know, right? I felt like I needed to do like a Shirley Temple like tap dance or
yeah.
something.
So that was a special little treat on our tour. So Penny was
I'm
dressed as one of
I'm
the
available
ghosts.
for future
Yeah.
tours if you guys need, need someone to show up wearing a sailor dress, I can
Leave
do
it to
that.
the leave it to the skeptic to accidentally cosplay as a ghost.
I'm the ghost.
um but anyway, back to our hauntings. One thing you might notice about both of those that we just discussed is that the people whose spirits we're seeing are not people who actually died on the ship, which is unusual for hauntings.
Mhm.
Obviously, the kind of hauntings we're most familiar with are spirits of people who like died, usually violently somewhere, and their energy gets left behind from that kind of imprint. So, how do we explain these events? I really enjoyed. Well, I enjoyed this whole tour, honestly. I thought our guide was really great too about not being like I've taken ghost tours in my
Yeah.
day, and a lot of people are like, and over here,
Yeah, very
eh,
spooky.
you'll see a man. Like Bill was hilarious. He was like popping out from all there must be secret passageways in the
Oh
ship.
my god, Bill was popping out all over the place.
He was
He'd be
showing
like, "You
up.
guys go ahead of me," and then he'd be like, "Surprise, bitch, I'm in front now." We're like,
But
"What?"
he but he would
Bill.
announce himself by just starting a new story. He'd be like, "In 1946." We're like, "Oh my god, Bill." Um so he was awesome, and he presented everything just very straightforward. No
Yes.
like no fluff, just
Very
like
just the facts, ma'am.
here's what happened, which I feel like if we're going to get Penny on board with spirits is the way you have to present the information. Um but I also really loved he talked about, and Penny, you might have to jump in here and correct me if I'm mistaken. I
Sure.
think he called it just residual haunting.
Yeah, it was something like that.
But that also doesn't sound quite right. But that is a type of haunting. But anyway, uh, residual haunting is basically where like a strong energy imprint is left in a place. And of course that can happen with like a traumatic event, but the way that Bill was presenting it was that it like can also happen with any extreme emotion, including happiness. And so there is kind of this belief with people that work on the ship and like people who are ghost hunter, I hate the word hunter, but like ghost searchers,
Yeah.
research paranormal researchers, um that some of these spirits, like Jackie, are seen wandering the ship because it's like replaying their happiest memories, kind of trapped in time. And they even kind of mentioned the idea that like the ship herself is
Mhm.
replaying her memories, which I freaking love that theory. Um, like the ship's just a little jukebox full of its passengers like best times. I think that's so cute. But I was really, I don't know. I think that's a nice way to kind of look at some things that I feel like we don't get addressed very often in the paranormal
Mhm.
community, I guess is what I mean to say. But of course, there are unfortunately spirits who did pass away on the ship and are not having a good time.
They're just not just straight up not having a good
Straight
time.
up not having a good time. Let's get into those. First one we're going to talk about is um, not great. So the Queen Mary took a lot of lessons from the Titanic,
Mhm.
and one of them was to make sure that they had ways to seal off areas of the ship in case it started taking on water. And this involved a system of hydraulic doors that could seal off an area airtight in under 60 seconds, which is smart and very cool.
Yes. Good idea.
Great idea. But unfortunately, on July 10th, 1966, a young worker by the name of John Petter was found crushed to death in door
Wow.
number 13. Ha ha ha.
Ooh.
Ooh. Um, and our tour guide was telling us, I just can't think of anything more like teenage boy than this.
Yeah.
It was apparently like common that the young crew members would play chicken in the hydraulic doors and try to like jump back and forth as many times as they could before the door closed. So it's possible that Petter was doing this when he was crushed to death. Which isn't funny, but also like play
Yeah,
stupid
that's
games, win
yeah,
stupid
that's definitely
prizes.
definitely some teen boy nonsense.
Yeah, but several of Petter's crewmates also said that he had been asking about like where a wrench was and that they believed he had jumped through the door in an attempt to recover his
Yeah.
tools. And there are several accounts of people who have interacted with his quote spirit that have reported hearing a voice asking, "Have you seen my wrench?" So this is possible that maybe he was just looking for his tools and
Mhm.
met an untimely end.
Do you
Uh,
have it noted to talk about our experience of hearing this story?
I don't, but I wish you would tell it. I forgot
Which
about
is
it actually.
yes, so we heard this story in a recreation, kind of an engine room where they
Mhm.
had, moved some of the historic kind of alarms and items, and they had an example door, like this, and as Bill, like, reached a dramatic moment about this guy being crushed, and, like, the loudest horn blast went off outside, and we all jumped out of our skins.
Well, and we were right by like an open door that went to the
Yes.
outer deck, so there
Mhm.
was no sound barrier between us and
No.
the horn. It was
It
like
was just a
right there,
full blast,
full
and
throttle.
we're all like, "Ah!"
Well, what was so funny too, our friend Devin
Our
was
Devin.
trying to break away from the tour group at the
Yeah,
time
sneak a
and
peek.
was like trying to sneak out on the deck and look at that, and it was like right as he got to the door that the thing blasted,
Ah,
and he jumped really like I thought he was gonna poop his little overalls. So he like ran back to the group and was like, that was my sign to not do that.
right, I gotta stay with the group.
That was John telling him to not go that
Yep,
way.
stay with your
uh
group. Don't try and get your wrench.
I do don't try and get your wrench. I do have a another story about this moment. Not about this moment in particular, but
Mhm.
so on another part of the tour, you go through this hallway where I guess my understanding was they have like a mesmerist or something, like a magician who does a spooky parlor show
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
ship and kind of like, raises the spirits of the ship. You have to fast 24 hours before. No, no.
So first he gives you the salad.
First, they give you a salad. No. But you go through this dark, long hallway into this kind of Victorian parlor area that they have set up in this room. But going down the hallway, they have a timeline of all the
Yes.
recorded deaths on the ship. And with anyone who has a photo of what they look like, there's a photo of them. Um, and it, I mean, obviously, it's very like kind of haunting and sad just to
Mhm.
see all these people who have passed away. But most of them didn't die like violent deaths. But we go through this, we're looking at all the photos and stuff, and as we get into the holding room, our other friend Andrew like comes up behind us and like very quietly was like, "Listen, I know we're all thinking it. I'm just saying it. The guy who got crushed was kind of a hottie."
He was
And
right.
the photo of him is so funny. He's in like a turtleneck and bell bottoms and he's holding up a fish. Like it's literally a 1960s like tender profile picture
Incredible.
of this little himbo. It was I don't mean to make fun of the dead, but it was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. He was
I mean, we're not making fun of the dead. We're honoring him because he was a hottie.
because he was a little beefcake. Yeah.
And if I died, I'd want people to be like, she was hot though.
I'm gonna put random photos of you around when you die so that people can be like, you know what? She was gorge though.
They'd be like, she's gorgeous, and you'd be like, crushed by hydraulic door.
So, outside of actual spirits who haunt the ship, There are also areas of the ship that are considered to be the most paranormally active. One such area is room B340. So this was one of the rooms um, that has kind of the most record
Hmm.
of activity. In specifically in the 70s, guests started complaining that in the middle of the night someone kept knocking at their door, and they would hear like the water in the bathroom turn on by itself, or it was like constantly running in the bathtub. A maid once had an account that she had gone in, made the beds, and then walked out, I'm assuming to her like cart, to get fresh towels, and that when she stepped back in the room, all of the linens had been stripped from the bed and thrown in a pile in the middle of the floor. And she was very, very scared by that.
Hmm.
Scared sheetless. uh, Another complaint filed by a couple staying in the room in 1966. Nope, not a couple, just one person. I lied. Don't listen to me. 1966, a woman woke up in the middle of the night and reported feeling that her sheets were being pulled off of her,
Oh yeah.
and then starting and waking up and seeing a man standing at the foot of her bed. She screamed and pushed the button to call the night steward, and the man vanished when she screamed. Now, the steward, who was apparently not far from the room at the time, heard the woman scream and was looking in the direction of the room because obviously someone screamed. And they did not see anybody leaving the room. And if you've not been on the Mary or seen videos or photos or stuff, the Queen Mary, um, what's kind of the most spooky is like all the rooms are down their own little like
Yeah.
corridors. You have to
Hmm.
kind of walk down probably I don't know what, like a 2 foot long, 3 foot long hall
Yeah.
into each suite area. And so like I guess point being, you couldn't like get out the door quickly and like run down the hall. Like you
Yeah.
have to kind of come out of an area. So yeah, Stewart did not see anybody leave. Um, and also, there is a logged death recorded from B226, which it was then discovered by the ship's historians and people that that room was later renumbered to B340. So that is one of the recorded deaths on the ship happened in this room and is marked as quote unknown causes.
Mm.
This room was not torn down, that's not the word, but like it was out of commission for
Yeah.
a while. In the 80s they pretty much shut it down to stayers.
Guests.
Guests, that's what they're called. um because so many people were like leaving in the middle of the night and weren't
Yeah.
finishing their stays, they were like, okay, we're just gonna shut it down. um and then I didn't realize this, so Penny, I'm sure you know, because I recently started rewatching BuzzFeed Unsolved
Yes.
because I hadn't seen most of the episodes. I became a Ghoul Boys fan like during Ghost Files, so I haven't seen a lot of the Unsolved. So I hadn't seen the like the lore of
Yes.
of the Queen
Ryan
Mary.
Bergara's Queen Mary lore.
Yes. Um. So I didn't realize. So if y'all don't know, Shane and Ryan, who were BuzzFeed Unsolved, they did a stay in the Queen Mary, and when they slept in room B340, but it's bare in that
Yeah.
footage. Like they've completely stripped the room, and they sleep on like cots, like blankets on the
Hmm.
floor. I didn't realize that they had like gutted that room because my first interaction with this was watching Mikey from Glam and Gore when she
Hmm.
stayed there in like 2018, probably when they had first reopened the room. So you can stay in that room now. You can book it, and it's been remodeled and updated. And I kind of think maybe I would like to stay in
You
there.
want to stay there? You want
I'm
to stay
pretty
there?
curious. So that's and it's really funny in Mikey's video. I don't know if they still do this, but when she checked in, there was a like trunk on the coffee table that had like a crystal ball, a Ouija board, some
Ooh.
crystals. Like they had set you up being like, hey, we know you're
Like, we know what
probably
you're here
here.
for.
Yeah, we know you're probably here to see some ghosts. So I thought that was funny. The other most kind of haunted area of the ship is considered to be the bow of the ship. This is because this is the location where the most deaths occurred, and all at once. So on October 2nd, 1942, the Queen Mary was being escorted across the Atlantic by a smaller ship, the HMS Curacao. And the Curacao was zigzagging in front of the Mary in order to confuse any like enemy U-boats or anything like that. But this boat was, I believe what I read said the Mary was 20 times bigger than the HMS Curacao. And because those two ships move at very different speeds, and
Yep.
we've talked once again about how fast the Mary is,
And also that's a big
and
boat.
it's a big freaking boat. They accidentally caught up to the Curacao and collided with it, cutting the ship in half.
They
And
zagged wrong.
they did not zig or zag. And some of the men on board were obviously killed instantly by the impact. Some sank with the vessel. Several were thrown into the water from the collision and died of hypothermia in the water. And also, this one makes me like, it's also believed that some of them were caught in the current of the Mary and pulled into the propeller and chopped up. And the Mary was A, going too fast, and B, like the war was happening. So like the protocol was that the ship couldn't stop to help them, basically. So they just had to keep going, and they called like the British Guard to come help them. But unfortunately, that, you know, it's the ocean. So
it's the ocean.
Maybe you've heard of it. So it took them a couple hours before they arrived. And of the 430 members that were aboard the Curacao, only 99 survived, which is a rough amount of people to lose in one go. So it is said that you can hear the screams of the members of the HMS Curacao on the bow of the ship, because obviously that is where the Mary made impact with the Curacao.
Yeah. I don't know if you have the exact thing, because I think Bill told us that it would take the Queen Mary like 10 miles to stop.
Yeah.
That speed, so it is like, even if they were like slam on the brakes, like it's too
they're
it's
too
not
far
gonna
gone.
happen.
Yeah,
and
they
I just
can't.
Also, my brain does not like wrap around that kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
that
Well, and like
something could be that big and that fast that you gotta.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's 1,000 foot long. Like you can't just turn it around, you
No.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you stopped like 50 feet or whatever, like
Yeah.
by the time you come to a stop, yeah, there's nothing they could have done. So very very tragic, very sad. And so both the bow of the ship and the boiler room are said to be kind of paranormal hotspots for hearing the crew. So that is what I have. Did I miss any spirits that were faves of yours from the tour, Miss Penny? Or did you have any moments on the ship where you felt uneasy at all?
I did not have any paranormal experiences while I was on the ship. I did enjoy hearing all of the stories, and the vibes. I I feel like, so I sort of vaguely mentioned this. I don't remember if there was a specific death recorded with it, but just the idea that like the stairs would like end up being like 90 degrees in like rough water was wild.
Yeah, there is a like a shadow man that is said to be like
Oh
at the
yeah, that's what it
bottom
was.
of
It was a
those.
shadow man.
I think it's the third class stairs or whatever. They said that basically, yeah, that he had taken a tumble down the stairs when the waves had the ship like at a 90-degree angle. Well, the stairs, not the ship.
Yeah. No, yeah. It was very interesting. I definitely like enjoy hearing interesting stories from like a historical perspective and what kind of things people did.
Yes.
I very much enjoyed checking out the ship and being a little sailor girl and being part of the spooky
being
vibe.
A little Jackie. Yeah, I mean, as our resident believer and highly sensitive person, I didn't really feel anything. Which I will say, I mean, first of all, it's important to note we took this tour at 11 in the morning.
Yes.
Like it's not the witching hour, first of all. But people who have worked on the ship have seen stuff all times of day. But I think maybe, and that's kind of why I paused in that area too, where we chatted about these residual hauntings and like positive memories that the ship
Mhm.
may be replaying. I didn't feel anything malicious or negative, because I tend to, my experience with spirits is that I tend to get like really sick to my stomach or nauseous when I'm in places even before I know that anything has
Mhm.
happened there. I tend to get this like really intense knowing, and I get like sick. And I never had that really on the ship. I had one spot when it wasn't even a spot where we were talking about anything haunted. I had one spot where I got kind of like the heebs, but other than that, it was a pleasant experience. So I think if you, like I said, this is now a luxury hotel. You can just
Mhm.
stay there. So if you want to go stay on the ship, even if you are scared of ghosts, I don't think there's anything there that's like trying to attack you or kill you. You're probably chill to go stay
Yeah.
as long as you don't hit room B340. Um, but I do think that it would be really interesting to get the opportunity to do some more investigative work and not just go on a tour. I would love, like I said, to stay in the quote haunted suite and see if anything came to pass.
Yes, and I think they do have, like, an evening more, like, investigating, like, centric event.
I think like during the season though. I think it's like a seasonal, cuz
Oh, okay.
on their website, the haunted happenings tour, which they, it looks like they do those pretty much every day. It's like every hour.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like from like 11 in the morning to 6 at night. Um but yeah, I didn't see anything like currently in the summer that you could do
Alright,
like an
just during the season.
investigative. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I highly recommend that you go check out the Mary if you're in the Long Beach area, just even for like the history and the beauty of it.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
really,
cool
really
book.
cool. I really, really enjoyed just getting to learn about something that old and historic. It was very neat.
Yes, and we had a good lunch. They have a, like, restaurant and stuff up they have
Yeah,
multi they
food
have, like,
was
a
good.
couple of, like, cafes. We stopped at the Chelsea, and then there's also, like, a very pretty art deco bar, on board.
Yeah, food was really good. I
Mhm.
definitely Chelsea's Chowder Bar. But that is a little dive into the Queen Mary. I hope this was spooky enough for you. I know that's a lot of ship history, but it's also a lot of hauntings.
A
So,
lot of ghost
a lot
stories.
of ghosts. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to check us out wherever you listen to your podcast and leave us a rating or a review. That really helps us find new audiences and lets us know that we're picking good topics to share with you. You can also, if you are not able to leave a review, I think Apple Podcasts is the only place you can. So if you can't leave us a review
Mhm.
where you listen, you can always DM us on Instagram or leave a comment on our Podbean account. Do we have a review today, Penny?
We sure do. So this is a
Excellent.
review that came to us in the DMs, and this is from the Nostalgia Crypt. And she says, haven't listened to the current episode yet, but I have enjoyed every one from this podcast.
Oh,
Between Penny's deadpan delivery and Midge's delightful laughter, you really feel like you're having a good time with some ghoul friends. They have a myriad of subjects to interest the spooky community, and you never know what they might cover next. 5 stars.
oh, thank you.
Thanks, friend.
And if you would like to send your own Instagram direct message review, you can find us over there at Ghouls Night in Pod. And
Ooh.
if you are looking for me, you can find me across the web at Midge Munster.
And you can find me at Penny Snark.
And until next time,
Goodbye.
goodbye.